if there's anything that I can take away from any of the failures, whether I didn't get this job or I didn't end up with that person or I didn't get this time slot or whatever, I know that, there is a bigger plan for me.
What's up, you guys, and welcome to Adulting with Joyce Pring, the how-tos of your 20s told by a 20-something-year-old traversing through adult life expectantly and with gusto. Don't forget to check out joyspring.com for the show notes and use the hashtag Adulting with Joyce Pring for all your comments, suggestions, and hopefully non-violent reactions.
Welcome everybody to another brand new episode of. I'm sorry if that might have kind of scared somebody.
Perhaps.
Welcome to SOS. It's another episode of Shot of Sanity here on Adulting with Joyce Spring. Joining me, of course, none other than the one and only Joyce Spring herself, the internet mogul that she is. I think there's anything that can be done on the internet, you are doing right now.
I am a firm believer in the internet. Yes, I've always been fascinated with it, and I feel like probably the weird origin of it is I used to love encyclopedias.
Yeah.
That was my jam when I was a kid, and so the first time that I was introduced to the internet, wherein you could actually learn from the web, I just got so fascinated with it, and I felt like the whole world just opened up to me, and I'm trying to maximize it.
I mean, from like karaoke nights to fitness to podcast, man. Joyce Spring is on everything like gravy on fried chicken. She needs to cover everything. She needs to. I'm Aaron Atida. Welcome to Shot of Sanity. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. How are you today, Parts? It's been less than 24 hours since we talked to each other last time, but how has that time been?
It's been exhausting. I feel like a lot of people are, really, really tired from everything that's happening with the world right now. With catching up with this new norm and at the same time trying to find some normal balance by going back to work or doing productive things on the internet. How about you, Parts?
I'm okay. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like good days are really good now and like bad days are really bad. You know what I mean? It has reached like polar opposites now where we are kind of bouncing back and forth with our mind space, and we're trying to like really try and combat a lot of the things that we're going through in terms of our head space and all of that. But I mean, I feel like, you're right. We are mentally tired.
Right.
And at the same time, we are also very, very lucky that the only tiredness that we have is, mental tiredness. There's people that are physically tired, and we are so blessed to be able to have a lot of the privilege that we have, and we will never ever take that for granted. And I think that is the one thing that will always bring me back to center when I'm having like a bad mental day, when I think, you know what, I'm a lot more well off than a lot of people are in terms of the life situation right now. And when you appreciate that, that's when it becomes a little bit easier for you.
Yeah, that's a great point that you gave, Parts, because that's one thing that we constantly talk about here on the podcast. Like, how do you ease being worried or anxiety? You always count your blessings. By counting your blessings, you're really bringing your mind to a more positive state. You're really seeing the world from a different perspective. You're kind of looking at it from a lens and the standpoint of, these are the things that I'm currently enjoying and that I currently have, instead of focusing on the lacking.
Yes.
And one of the books that I'm currently reading right now by Jordan Peterson, it includes this psychoanalysis experiment that they did, and on what it's called the guy who did it was called Dr. Simmons, Philip Simmons or something. That's parang what it was called was specific attention deficit. That was the name of the experiment. And basically what they did was, there were three players passing the ball, right? Three players wearing a black shirt, three players wearing a white shirt. And what they would do is they got the control group and asked them to observe these players. Now they said to the control group, okay, count how many times the players in white shirts would pass the ball amongst themselves. So they got the correct answer. The control group got the correct answer 15 times. But what they didn't see was there was a guy in a gorilla costume that walked in right in the middle of the six players, started banging his chest, and then walked out. It was so amazing to find out like they never saw that. Why? Because they were so focused on the players wearing white shirts
Interesting.
passing the ball. And so that experiment really just showed how your brain has this trick where wherever you're focused, that's where it will only pay attention. Because
Yes.
parang sinasabi nila doon, your eyes are so, it's so limited. Like there's so many things that needs to go on before it goes into your brain, right? So it's so limited the attention that you do. And so that also goes into the other metaphysical things in life, like gratefulness.
Yes, and that's what tunnel vision really is. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
where you direct your tunnel vision is where, a lot of your attention is going to go, whether it is the good side or the bad side. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when you have bad days and they become really bad days because of a lot of anxiety that we're having in the situation, try and I know it's so tough sometimes to try and look for that silver lining, and we're not trying to push false positivity or anything like that, but instead of it being positivity, it's more of gratitude. So
Yep.
that's how I look at it. It's not like, oh, everything is going to be okay. It's more of, you know what, things are not okay at the moment, but there are things that are going good, and let's be grateful for that instead of clowning down and being like, I want to go out and see my friends. That's
Yeah.
not what you're supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Acknowledge and honor every feeling. What your Aaron Atayde is always saying that to me. Acknowledge and honor every feeling. It's their feelings are neutral. They're not good
yes,
or bad. It's the action that follows that you could
yes.
define as good or bad.
There is no such thing as a wrong feeling. If that's what you feel,
Mm-hmm.
that's what you feel. But what you do with that feeling is what's going to dictate how your actions go.
So true. Okay, tapos na yung
Oh,
episode.
all
Ito na
right. Thank
pala
you
yun.
guys. It's if you want to join our Facebook group, get it. No, we do have another question from you guys, and we will be playing it right now. This one is an overseas question. So let's check out what is on the plate for SOS today.
Hey Joyce and Aaron, it's Precious and I'm a Filipino based in Toronto, Canada. Here's my question for you. In this modern world and in the pretty liberated era that we are in, how do you stop from being easily swayed by the opinions of others and by their ways of living? I also have another question, which is, with all the talented, intellectual, good-looking, successful influencers and personalities and even ordinary people around us, how do we stay authentic or true to ourselves? Thank you so much, guys. God bless. Paalam.
Very interesting question. I like that. Thank
So
you.
difficult.
Thank you, Precious, all the way from
Thank you,
Canada.
Precious. From
Interesting.
Toronto, going international. We came from Bulacan, Leyte, Pampanga to Singapore and now to
Oh,
Toronto.
nice.
Appreciate
If we can't
it.
travel, then our questions will.
Yay! Thank you, Precious, for that question. Okay, so I love this question parts. It's a two-part question. The first one talking about how do you stand by your moral standards when the whole world is constantly evolving and sometimes, well, most of the time, you don't agree with it, but it's hard to obviously stick by your moral standards if
Yes.
you're constantly berated or you're constantly pounded by the other things or you're being pulled towards all the other directions. And the second part is how do you stay authentic and I guess find confidence in who you are when you're surrounded by amazing, incredible people, either influencers or normal people.
It's a very very interesting and to be completely honest, this might be one of the most difficult questions that has been thrown our way because it is so because like for me, first of all, the root of everything that will be discussed on this entire episode based on both of those questions is knowing who you are and what you stand for.
Mm-hmm.
If you know the things that are important to you, the things that matter to you, then then you can tackle the rest of the things that come along the way in terms of the discussion that we're going to be having. Because if you don't know who you are and you don't know what you stand for, then you will fall for everything. And that's something that
Yes.
my dad always taught me when I was younger was, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. And that
Mm.
was something that I've held on to me onto my heart for time immemorial. I tried to know who I was so that I wouldn't be persuaded into thinking I was somebody else.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it, in terms of like the overall aspect. What about you, Parts? As somebody that is, so well read and you know interacts with a lot of people, you consume a lot of content, you read a lot. How do you, in terms of your Christian life,
Mm-hmm.
because there is scripture for you that dictates a little bit of how life should be spent. How do you know to differentiate both sides of that?
I feel like this is such a deep and profound question because it's a question that I only got to answer really maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I've been a Christian my entire life, but I never really practiced it. I didn't really take my Bible seriously. I would go in and out of church. You know me, I'd always be fickle about these kinds of things. And the only time really that I understood where I stand is when I figured out where I stood in perspective of eternity. So with the Bible, you're constantly faced with moral values, one, and you're also faced with morality. And I feel like knowing that life is, there's a limit to it, having that knowledge constantly kind of put into your brain, and you kind of understand that on a daily basis, it changes everything because you now know, like, what are the big things. You don't sweat the small stuff anymore, and you always look at the overarching purpose of your life. So the first thing that I really did was I asked my why. It's so easy to know what your what is and what your how is. So I'm a human being, I'm a girl, I am going to be a broadcaster, I'll be a wife to someone. That's your how, and that's your what, right? But what is your why? And I feel like that's the first question that you have to ask yourself when you're looking at standing your ground, because you can't stand on anything, as Aaron said, if you don't first have the moral values and the things that you stand for, and you don't define that from the very beginning. So for me, my question was, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I put here? Why am I valuable? How am I intrinsically valuable? And the reason why I am a Christian, apart from the feeling of it, the experience that I had when I became a Christian, it was also because it was the only worldview from all of the books that I read. I studied philosophy when I went to Oxford in summer because I wanted to understand how other people saw it, and it was only the Christian worldview that really gave me an answer. Your why is, there is a God who made you in his image, which gives you intrinsic value that no one can take. Whatever your mistakes are, whatever your imperfections are, if you're born with a disability, you are of intrinsic value. Not like with naturalism or a materialistic worldview wherein talagang dun ka lang sa natural order of people. Intrinsic value, that's one. And the second one is, my purpose in life is to really be reconciled to that amazing God, and really have a relationship with him. And so and then the third one is because 'di ba sinimplify ni Jesus yung commandments from 200 commandments with David, you got it into 10 in Moses, and then you got it into 2 with Jesus. And Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. That's the first one. And the second one is, love others as you love yourself, even your enemies, even the people that you don't agree with. And so those are the two laws that I stand by, and that I stick with every day. So that's how I make my decisions. If I'm going to do anything big or small, sabihin natin with my social media posting, is this post something that still glorifies God? Does this not drag the name of God into mud? If the answer is yes, okay, good. The second question is, this does this show my love for others? Will it be of service to others, like the second commandment that I follow also? If the answer is yes, then my decision is also a yes. And I feel like that's also the first question that you have to ask yourself. Obviously, on the podcast, we're not here to try and convert you, or really try to, I guess, sucker punch our belief
Yeah.
systems down your throat. But this is an important conversation that you must have with yourself and with your loved ones. What is your why? Why do you think you're put here on this earth? If your why is something that's finite or mortal, like, I'm here to become a doctor, the moment you don't pass the board exams, the moment that you don't become a doctor, the moment that you pass away, then your why just kind of, it fizzles out. So you have to be grounded in something that's that's rooted in forever. And that's my Christian faith for me. How about you, Parts? Okay, obviously you're not a Christian, and this is why I
Yes.
like the show, because we get to actually give our opinions. and
Hey,
and
Bowie.
Bo's here. He
Special
also
guest.
wants to give his why now. Yeah, so for you, how do you traverse through life, and what is your why, do you think? And or if you're not there yet, if you don't know your why yet, how do you make decisions every day that makes you stand on solid ground?
See, the thing that I always pretty much looked at, and the way that I've always lived my life is, I'm a nerd whenever it comes to things, and I always believed if I did enough research on something, I would be able to come up with a respectable answer towards if I was going to do something or not. Because there are two sides of the story. One is, yes, there are things, exterior forces that will maybe try to influence or persuade you to do things.
Mhm.
And then there's the other side, and then you might not be comfortable to do it. Then there's another side of, if you don't, if you always stay in your comfort zone, you will never learn anything new.
Mhm.
So I'm always trying to balance both of those things out, and I think that that's where this entire thing, we can kind of correlate what we were trying to say. So,
Mhm.
for instance, for me, I love to, if I wanted to cook something, I'll do my research on how to cook it or something. Like, it's not because somebody's like, oh, you should cook fried chicken tonight. You should cook fried chicken tonight, and then you're gonna fall there. You're like, oh my god, I should cook fried chicken tonight. No, I'll try to learn how to do it correctly and all that, and then I'll think about doing it that way. Now, to correlate to what Joyce was saying a while ago, and the way that she found her way of living, and the way that she found her why. It's funny because what she did was she did research about about her why. She
Yeah.
found the right reasons for her to do it. And the root of it all is, does this make you a better member of society?
Mm-hmm.
And her why was, does this make do my actions glorify God? Now, if somebody was in a different religion, or atheist, or Catholic, or whatever, the main root of it all is, you're trying to become a better member of society. Whichever the, I guess, the root cause of it all is, whatever wording it is to get you there, that's what matters. So if something that you are thinking about doing, or somebody that is asking you to do something, or influence you to go one way or another, if you think in your mind it doesn't make you a better member of society, you will probably not be able to do it. That's where research and critical thinking will come into play. Now, Parts, I understand you were talking a while ago about finding your why. Now, when it comes to looking at learning new things that might be out of your comfort zone, how do you balance that out with the debate in your head of, okay, is this something that will glorify Jesus Christ, or is it, okay, this, I need to do more research? Or how do you go about that if it's something that's out of your comfort zone, or out of maybe the realm of what is being discussed in your D groups and stuff?
For those people who don't know, a D group is like a small Bible group that
Yes, there you
Aaron
go.
Ataide knows, because
Yes,
he's heard that term so many
so
times.
many
He thought it
times.
was a funny name for it, and it's funny now that he just throws it around because he knows
Because I
it.
learned and I did my research, and that's how I got it.
Yes, that's right. Um, I love C.S. Lewis. He's also a Christian, and he is a prolific writer. He wrote Narnia and some other amazing allegories, other books. And he said something like, "Yes, Christians are supposed to make decisions every day that glorify God and that love and serve others. That's for sure your moral compass. That will be your number one purpose and your number one why." But and then he said, "But does this mean we have to be solemn? No."
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yes, yeah. So he was saying, "Does this mean that we have to be solemn? No, of course not. This is actually a chance for you to better express yourself." We were just watching it kanina nga. The Christian life and my Christian belief doesn't water down my experiences. If anything, it elevates it. So what I'm trying to say is, for example, when I'm eating steak, and I love a really good steak, like amazing steak, with a glass of wine, that's an amazing experience for me. If I'm not a Christian, when I wasn't a Christian, I'll take it from my personal experience. When I wasn't a Christian yet, I was just eating steak, and after I eat, I was just like, okay, good, great, I got a good meal in. But because I'm a Christian now, whenever I have a good steak, my experience is elevated in that, wow, I can fathom and be awestruck by God, that God created flavors, that He allows me to experience good steak, that He allowed me to actually be able to, He provided for me to buy that steak, for me to be able to experience this good meal that I'm having right now. So instead of dampening my experience, my understanding of who my creator is, who my provider is, who my sustainer is, actually elevates experiences for me. And it pretty much does that for everything else. Like when I travel, I used to just travel because I wanted to whatever, right? Like you discover things, or sometimes I acquire knowledge for the sake of acquiring knowledge because I want to use it for my arrogance. It gives me purpose now that I acquire knowledge, not because I want to constantly defend myself and prove to other people that I'm smarter than them, although I am not always.
Hmm.
But when I get the chance to, right, that was before, that was my purpose before. But now my purpose is, if I have this knowledge, then I have the capacity to actually touch another person's life, and teach them, and maybe just influence them for the better. And if I'm able to influence them for the better, that also means that I'm able to show my love for them. And in that regard, I'm really being able to redefine love and service in light of what the Bible teaches, which is, it's not a feeling, it's not anything that's just romantic. It really is sacrifice, it is service for others. And when I look at the gospel, which is defined as good news, which we talked about on the podcast yesterday, the good news of Jesus Christ, what did Christ do on the cross? Now, something that you always think about is, okay, you have the material things. Is it okay that I'm
Yeah,
going
go
on
ahead, go ahead,
parts?
go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
I'm listening.
Okay, so you have the material things of the world, right? Like you have your body, you have my ring light, you have this laptop, you're currently listening to the podcast right now. That's the material things. But what are the three things that a human being is constantly looking for that cannot be defined by anything physical? Those are three metaphysical things, and that is justice, mercy, and love. Where does justice come from? Why is it that in our hearts we always want justice? Whenever we watch a movie, we want the hero to win over the bad guy. Where does that come from? Mercy. How is it that some people are able to show kindness towards those who don't show them the same kind of kindness? Why is that? Where does mercy come from? And then love. Love, if you define it by science, is probably just going to be, you're going to be told by a scientist that it's just, it's your neurons passing a message from your skin, it's your hormones doing all of these things. But that's not what love is. If you've ever held a child, or if you've ever had, a parent that you really look up to, that you do anything for, you know what love feels like, and it's not just chemicals in your brain working. So justice, mercy, and love are three metaphysical things that we are constantly badgered by. These are three things that we cannot let go of. Um, and and justice, mercy, and love was found in one place at one time in the history of the world, and that is at the cross in Calvary, where you see the justice of God being fulfilled in that Jesus Christ died for your sins, the mercy of God being fulfilled in that you don't have to suffer or do anything. You just have to accept the free gift of God in Jesus Christ, that salvation, and his love for us. So when I looked at that, I was like, oo nga, no? Justice, mercy, and love. Three metaphysical things that I'm constantly looking for. And another thing is morality, right? People say that you have to, just accept what other people's moral standards are, but that cannot be true. Because if that's true, why are we angered by the Genghis Khans, the Nazis, the Hitlers of the, why are we angered by that? Because deep in our hearts, we know that there is a right thing and there is a wrong thing. Like, 'di ba? Bakit ganon? Why is that? How can we not, how is it that we can't go and be like, yeah, what Hitler did was okay. I think it was okay. Why can't we do that? Why?
My question though is, how does this correlate to peer pressure? Because that, I mean, to kind of bring it back to the question, because I think we kind of like went over a lot of different things right there. How does like the way that your lifestyle has been, going so far for the past 2-3 years, how does that influence because that is probably the main influence that you have in your life right now.
Yes. Okay.
How does that influence the decisions you make and the way of life that you have?
Yeah. So the only reason why I went through, I'm sorry, parts. I
was
just
like, this is great conversation. I was just like, yeah, going back. Let's
but
bring it all
going back,
Yeah.
no, but the reason why I feel like I had to say that was because the most important, everybody lives by a worldview, by how do you see the world, right?
Yes.
I was just trying to explain what my worldview is
Mhm.
and how it defines me. The way that you won't be swayed by your peers or by the world that you don't necessarily agree with is if you are laid on solid foundation.
Yes.
So your homework, what is the name of our listener again?
Precious.
Precious
Yes.
Mamaril, right?
Yes.
Your homework, Precious, is to do your research, ask, and really see for yourself what is the worldview that answers my deepest questions. And when I find this worldview, you have to stick with it. And this worldview, I think, just a general standard for worldviews, this worldview has to not only service yourself, like it can't only be good for you, but it also has to be good for the society that you're plugged into. That's what you have to remember. Now, when you have a worldview that you stand by, that you stick with, you've researched, you've accepted, and you've decided you're going to live by, that's the only time that you could really not be swayed by other people. Because if you're so solid in what you believe and how you see the world, it's easy to tell people, I appreciate you. I respect you enough to tell you that I don't agree with you. And that's unity and diversity, really. That's the kind of world that we live in. The kind of world that we live in is not a totalitarian world. And we don't want it to be a totalitarian world where just one worldview is followed, right? You have to respect people enough to tell them, I disagree with you. Every person is of equal value, but not every idea is. And so you could tell them respectfully, I respect you. I understand that that's what you believe in, but that's not something that I'd like to go with because this is how I see the world. So
Yes, and that's exactly what I was going to a while ago, where it was, you know, again, whether it is the Christian point of view, like from where Joyce is coming from, or from mine, where I'm a Catholic and I might not be practicing as much as I should. The main root of it all is that you want to be a better member of society, and if the decision that you are making makes you a worse member of society, then you know that that might not be the decision that you're going. Always be planted in your morals, whether it is taught by anybody that is trying to make sure that you're a better person. Always be planted in your morals. Now, the biggest thing as well is, and I'm sure, I don't know how you will react to this, so it's going to be very interesting for you, for me to see how you will react. One is always question your morals as well. Question them so that you know if you need to grow from them or not. Like, for instance, if you were growing up and your parents told you, never leave the house, you can never leave the house because if you do, you're going to die, or something like that, and you grew up going that way and you thought that way for your entire life, which may be the way that things are right now, like you literally cannot leave your house, you still need to question it and you need to think,
Yeah.
okay, why are they telling me to do this? Can I, go out or anything like that? That's when you go into your research and I mean, try and figure things out. To kind of bring it down even further, I had to research a lot about, drinking wine. Like, is it bad to drink wine every day? So I was like, okay, I did my research. Okay, one glass of wine is fine. Okay, then that's good. And then I had to counter.
One glass parts, hindi one bottle.
Hindi naman sinabi kung gaano kalaki yung glass.
Okay.
Oh. Oh.
You always
Just
find
saying.
your way around it.
Just saying.
You always find
See,
your way around
I
it.
found my research to work my way around it.
No, that's not how you're supposed to live life, guys. This is cheeky banter. This is what we
Yes.
call cheeky banter.
Cheeky banter. Cheeky, very cheeky. But yeah, see, do your research, question your morals so that you can cement your morals even more. Because if you stand for something and you did your research, you're like, okay, like for instance, do not drink disinfectants to get rid of coronavirus. And you're like, deep down inside, I know my morals are telling me not to do this. But you know what? Let's do some research just to make sure.
Yeah.
Do your part on your own so that you learn so much more about yourself and the things that you stand for.
Super true. I love your point, Parts. We are all born into the world with the capability to actually think for ourselves. And now more than ever, we have in literally the palm of our hands the chance to actually learn. We have the chance to look at history. We have the chance to actually think and use our brain power to arrive at a conclusion. I think that's what it is. And so you have to look at that. You have to look for the truth that gives you coherence also. Does it all match up? Does it all match up? And when it matches up, does it also apply well to your life, right? Because some things may be good theoretically, like okay, maganda siyang idea or worldview theoretically, pero pag in-apply mo siya, hindi naman pala. So think of it in that way. And I also love what Aaron said kanina. You have to start from who you are. I love this quote. I think it was Gandhi who said na everybody wants to change the world, but nobody wants to change themselves. You have to
Yes.
change you first before you change anything else or anybody else for that matter. So
And-
yeah.
Yeah, and to go back to what we were kind of talking about yesterday, the first thing is that if you know that somebody, like for instance, going to the second question, whether it is being swayed by an influencer that is very good looking and all of that, I think that we need to go past the questions of who this person is, how good looking or how talented these people are, and again go back to what it is, the idea of it, the idea of what they're trying to make you do, and or swayed you to get into or to try or anything like that. If you know that the idea that they're giving you does not go with the way of life that or the truth that you have in your heart, then it's easier for you to be like, no, that's not for me. I'm not going to do that. Know that
Yeah.
know the truth in your heart, and the decisions in your life will become so much easier in terms of turning away influence from other people.
Yeah. Which I think ushers us to the second part of the question, right, Barts?
Yes.
And I think the one of the best advices that I've ever read was something like this. There's no original idea, but whatever idea that you have or whatever thing that you want to do, it has never been done by you. And that in itself is of value. You don't have to really think about how other people are doing it better than you. Obviously there will always be people who are smarter, more talented, more influential than any of us. That will always be. And that also goes to show, like, you have to ask yourself, by which standard? Because you can say that that person has a better life than you, but in a different standard, may not be career, diba, or personal life. Maybe you're better than them, right? Like your favorite movie star could also be a miserable drunk, but you're not. But you're probably not famous, but you're not a miserable drunk. Or your colleague who is far more excelling than you are, but that your colleague has a wife or a husband who who's cheating on her, right? So like you might think that their life is better than you, but by what standard? So that's what you have to ask yourself also. What are the standards by which you're comparing yourself? And that's why I feel like comparing yourself with others is always going to be a lose-lose situation unless it's for inspiration or encouragement. Because if you're just gonna compare yourself to others, tapos parang titignan mo na mas better yung life nila, obviously, like there will always be better people, di ba? Like there are so many other better podcasters than Aaron and myself, but
Obviously.
you're here, you're
Thank
listening
you.
to us, which gives us value without
Mhm.
comparing ourselves to others. So
Yeah, and it again, it just really goes back to it. It doesn't matter, and we talked about this in the episode about the influencers. It doesn't matter if the person has 1 million followers, 20 million followers, or 100 followers. The impact that that person's influence will have on someone's life could be gigantic. So if you feel like you're being swayed by some things that a lot of people are doing, and you feel like you need to do every single challenge there is on TikTok, then if you know deep down in your heart that you're doing it because you're trying to enjoy yourself and what, yes, but try it. Not
mm,
only look at the idea that the influencer, so to say, is putting on you, but try and also examine what that idea is doing to you. So react and then understand what the reaction is.
okay, Bart, this
Yeah.
is my question for you. You are constantly in highly competitive industries. You went
Yes.
from radio and then TV, sports also. It's crazy competitive. What are the things that you constantly remind yourself of to make you feel and kind of like give that assurance to yourself that it's okay that you're trying. It's okay if you fail. It's okay if you go back up again. Where do you get that from?
I don't know. I think because I've failed a lot in my life. I failed a lot in professionally. I failed a lot academically. Like literally, I failed a lot in academically, and I failed a lot personally. So the way that I look at it is, I failed so many times before, and yet I'm still standing now. And
Mhm.
if there's anything that I can take away from any of the failures, whether I didn't get this job, or I didn't end up with that person, or I didn't get this time slot, or whatever, I know that there is a bigger plan for me. That
Mhm.
I might not get it now, but I'll get something along the way, and
Mhm.
that would be what was destined for me. I guess the biggest way I looked at it was, okay. So a lot of people have always asked me, why I went into sports broadcasting, and we talked about this a little bit during our podcast. But when we had that one where you interviewed me, but for those that weren't able to listen to it, I really got into sports broadcasting because I wasn't good enough to play basketball. I
Mm.
wasn't good enough to play pro sports, so I tried to find other ways to get involved, and I think that was the one thing that kept me going was, if one thing wasn't it, it was going to be something else, and I just needed to find what that was. And
Yeah.
if it's not going to be singing for somebody, maybe it's going to be music production, or like
Mm.
songwriting. Or if it's not going to be that you know brand manager job for you at this company, it could be a brand manager job for you at some other company. There
Mm.
it When failure comes, all it does is set up. Every setback is just a bigger opportunity for a bigger comeback. That's how I look
Mm.
at life.
Yeah. Okay na yun. Okay na
Okay,
yun.
sige.
But yeah, really good advice. And I feel like it also it circles back to the first conversation that we had in this episode, which is also gratitude.
Yes.
It's being grateful for the skill sets that you were born with and that you were able to develop, and the skill sets that you don't have. It's
Mm-hmm.
being grateful for the circle of influence that you have and the support system that you have that other people don't have. I think if I'm looking at it from an outsider's perspective, the reason why Aaron Ataide also has the capability to constantly get back up and keep going and keep trying and keep going into competitive industries and thrive is because not only does he have this personal individual drive in him, but also because he has a good system and support system around him. So find your support system, find the people who believe in you, surround yourself with people who actually want the best for you, and that's how you will thrive without even noticing what the other people are doing. Because at the end of the day, we all have lives to live. They might have good lives that they're living, but you also have your life to live, and you have to make decisions that will make that life better for you. So
There
there.
you go, man. This episode was like, and I know people might be listening to the episode and be like, "Wow, there's like so many things going on right now," and it like a lot of data and a lot of information being thrown out. It is because the question was so complex. It's so difficult to answer that in 30 minutes and try
Yeah.
and make it sound coherent. And I hope that somebody tries to put all of our like all of the points together and like brings it down, because literally we heard this question maybe about 3 minutes before we went on air. So I hope
But
I
I
hope
think we gave a pretty good answer.
I
No,
think so.
okay, so here's the thing, guys. We just want to tell you that we're not gurus. Like, we
No,
don't
no,
know
not at
the
all.
answers to life, but the biggest part of adulting is that we have to start important and profound conversations
Yes.
like these. We might not have the complete answer, we might disagree with one another, but the important part is we got to express and kind of like churn out our brain. Ano nga ba? What is the answer to these questions? So, hopefully kahit papano, we made sense.
And if we didn't, I think that's what the Facebook group is there for, that
Yes.
we guys can discuss this. And
Mm-hmm.
this is actually one question that I would love to see. It's kind of like our EC question, like because
Mm-hmm.
it's with ECQ with a or
Wow.
ECQ
Wow.
and A. I don't know.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just I don't
You
know.
pushed it.
Yeah,
ECQ
I
okay na.
went way too far with that
Yeah.
one. So if you guys haven't joined our Facebook group, please join our conversation over there. And also, please make sure that you hit us up online at Aaron Ataida and at Joyce Pring on both Twitter and on Instagram. We're loving everything that you guys are sending our way, and hopefully we continue to get more questions coming in through joyspring.com.
That's right. And we'll also see you this Friday as we go live for another episode of Shot of Sanity. That's going to be on Facebook at a time that we will announce
Yeah.
very, very soon
We need
before
to ask
Friday
people.
comes. Yes, we need to poll that first. But in the meantime, that's it for this episode. Thank you very much to Precious for sending in her question. And thank you guys for listening all the way to the end of the episode. Once again, my name is Joyce Pring.
And my name is Aaron Ataide. We'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Peace.
Paalam. And that's it for this episode. If you'd like to continue the conversation, go to www.joycepring.com. And if you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/adultingwithjoycepring. I'll talk to you guys soon. Paalam.